everybody? Welcome back to Ham Shack TV. I'm your host, Josh, AA4WX. Thanks for tuning in. Guys, we've had just a massive response to the nuclear war video that I made the other day. Wanted to make a follow-up on that because there's several folks making comments in the comment section. While I pull this up, I do want to remind you, please be sure to go and hit the subscribe button down below, as well as click the notification bell right next to it. That way you can stay alert to any videos that I post right here on Ham Shack TV. Let's get to some of your comments and let's talk about them. Now, I will tell you, I do not have all the answers. I just don't. However, we'll try to talk about, make some arguments and see some agreements as things go along. And maybe you have some follow-ups on stuff. Do me a favor, get in the comments and follow up to any of the comments that we talk about. So if you haven't already watched this video, go back and see it. It was the second to the last video I posted, I believe. It's titled Nuclear War and Amateur Radio, What You Need to Know About License Cancellations in 2025. This is a very, very important topic right now, given all the circumstances with war and conflict around the country. Around the world, I should say. So let's start off here. Michael says, okay, so just relinquish your ham equipment to the government, and while you're at it, go ahead and give them your firearms. Not. Well, that's a good point. Here's the situation. I have a hard time believing that they will be confiscating equipment unless you're causing trouble. If by chance this were to happen and we weren't to get into a nuclear conflict and the FCC said shut it down, if you're breaking the rules, I could see them confiscating equipment. But they're not just going to be randomly out having equipment relinquish drives. I don't see that happening at all. C.E. Devido, I'm sure I mispronounced that, says, remember they suspended amateur war using our amateur radio use during World War II. So the precedence has been set. Yes, it has. There was no amateur radio for a few years there. Joe Bon Joe says, in the event of nuclear attack, the last thing I care about is a license to anything. I'll do whatever I need to do, whether radios, weapons, or transport. And I think, under certain circumstances, you do have to do that, And the other side of it is if it is a life and death emergency, license means nothing. It truly needs to be a life and death emergency, and you can pick up a police radio if you have to and talk on it. The FCC is not going to smack you for that. So if it is a life and death emergency, please pick up your radio and, if you need to move around. If you need to use a weapon, use a weapon. If it is life and death, absolutely. You use all means necessary to stay alive. Let's see here. World Money Wins says they can cancel my licenses if they want. I will not quit. Fair enough. Captain Dread 2013 says if we are in a nuclear conflagration. Not heard that word before. I'm sorry. The last thing I'm going to care about is the status of my ham radio license. Get a grip. What about your ability to communicate? That's the big question I had about that one. You just going to live in a bunker and stay hidden? Not have any way to get out? You need to have ways to communicate one way or another. Gorloxian says ham radio is not consistent with totalitarian regimes. BT followed that up saying Trump will eliminate any license to anyone who doesn't sign a loyalty oath. I don't buy that for nothing. Sorry. Goloxian says bot. That's, I don't know. Leave it alone. Sloppy Floppy 79 says my ham license expired 3 years ago. This stuff doesn't affect me anymore. Stay on populated frequencies and only short and intermittent transmissions. People have the Kraken SDR nowadays. I'm not familiar with the Kraken SDR. I'd like to know more about that. If you know about the Kraken SDR, get in the comments and let me know. WH6FQE says, it isn't just nuclear war. Amateur radio licenses were canceled during WW2. The FCC has the authority to cancel licenses during any wartime. However, even during World War II, not all ham dragon operators quit transmitting. I think that might be ham radio. For some reason, Spellcheck changed it to dragon. They just stopped transmitting from base stations that could easily be located. The hams who stayed on the air used guerrilla tactics. Warlock Command Center says, and remember, there's a book they call the Baofeng Guerrilla Radio that's somewhat popular. Interesting. Okay. Carbon Lux H7T says, wow, you were the only ham with the, I won't repeat that, to talk about this subject. I knew this from day one, but no hams are talking about it. Thanks. Well, I just want, I want to pass information along and make sure that we have concerns noted when it comes to certain things. I am not sharing my screen for some reason, and I apologize for that. Let me fix that for you. I don't know why my screen share went away. And there we go. Back you come. Sorry about that, folks. So anyway, moving on down, we've got WA1LBK says, historically, amateur radio operation was prohibited during both World Wars, both World War I and World War II. Back then, it was the only means, other than the landline, telephone, and telegraph, of international communications available to the general public. Even at that, limited VHF operations were permitted during World War II under the guise of WERS, which stands for War Emergency Radio Service, using the 2.5 meter band, predecessor to the post-war present-day 2 meter band, using very primitive vacuum tube equipment, which a $25 Baofeng HT would outperform today. This was designed to assist in, read more, local disaster scenarios such as natural disasters, maybe assistance in the event of a foreign attack on U.S. soil along the lines of 1950 Civil Defense Program. That being said, it is a far different world today. Excuse me. It is a far different world today. If the nightmare scenario of a nuclear exchange would take place, it might be a total bolt out of the blue surprise attack, where the first public learns of it is the actual bomb detonations, without necessary or a formal declaration of war. If that were to occur, I think there would be a far more pressing priorities than worrying about amateur radio. This is also assuming how much modern amateur equipment might survive EMP attack or effects. Although a lot of us, myself included, also have vintage vacuum tube equipment that might survive, although powering it, assuming the loss of commercial AC power, might be problematic, versus the fact that almost all modern amateur equipment can run off of 12-volt DC batteries. Even if the FCC were to prohibit amateur radio operation during such emergency, how would they enforce it? Even under current peacetime conditions, FCC rule enforcement is a joke. This isn't even considering CB free band operators who have traditionally thumbed their noses up at any FCC regulations. In the 1950s, during the height of the Cold War, both CONELRAD, which is control of electromagnetic radiation, monitors would automatically disable transmitters if monitored broadcast station went off the air. Also, don't forget about the internet, which in its original DARPA envisioned scenario was designed to inherently be nuclear attacks survivable. Even if the large population centers were taken out, some internet communications might still be possible, including some cellular networks. Let's hope that this speculation never becomes reality. Thank you, Tom, WA1LBK. Appreciate that feedback and the history lesson there. There's some stuff I learned there. So let's just talk about where we're at so far in this video. I do have some concerns about this. How in the world will the FCC enforce this? They can't enforce the rules that they've got in place now. you can't get on 40 meters without hearing somebody cussing up a storm. CB's never really been, at least in my lifetime, and I'm in my late 30s, has never really been monitored, regulated, or enforced. I do know of some folks that have gotten official observer notices, but official observers, what are they going to do other than send a nasty gram to the FCC in Washington? I'm not saying ignore the FCC rules. I don't believe in that at all. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Should this happen, my family will abide by the rules and regulations set forth. However, in a life and death scenario, I will turn on my radio and I will transmit if I have to, if that's part of it. So let me know what you think about that. Put that down in the comments. My family and I were stationed about 9 years in the United Kingdom. I loved pirate radio scene of the 90s there. Spoke on the phone to a few, and they had so many skills to operate successfully outside their extremely repressive government on the radio. One particular interesting was their mobile operating using power off on the base of street lights, stealing operating power, leaving them to operate free. Antennas up in various city parks locations, other very unlikely stations. Very bold and enjoyable programming. Really friendly operators. Some that solicited cassettes. We're talking about that era of local country stations from my hometown in Texas, which I gladly provided. Point being, where there's a will, there's a way. No one in a major event / catastrophe will be trying to gelocate a radio transmission when their and their families' lives are teetering in the balance. That is like number 22,385 on the give a hang list, is if that. That's pretty good. The first hostile public act negates all law and order. Licenses mean nothing. We got as close as we could, but now we still have 2 to 4 years of resettling on our foundation a little bit. Rules, when rules apply, no rules in times of chaos. Those that can flip the switch will prevail. Very good words. That's from Sean Sylvester, 8926. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. And some reason, I never turned on my screen share again. Sorry, folks. I will get better at this. I promise you. I promise you. So we are looking here. Let's see what else we got. JP Brown says, keep your ham radio, folks. Very simple. Appreciate that. JMA8352 says, what is the point of having a license anyway? So they can track you down easily. This country is heading to full Mad Max, and you better be grounded in Jesus. First and foremost, let me say I can't agree with you more on the Jesus part. We do need to find our faith back here in this country for sure. Things have really gotten off the rails with especially a lot of the social matters these days. But you have to have a license because it's in compliance. Let me ask you, JMA, and I'm not trying to be a jerk here or anything like that, but do you have a driver's license? Just saying. If you've got a driver's license, you conform to the licensure. If you have a driver's license, why do you have a driver's license? Because you're going to get a massive ticket or go to jail if you get stopped by the law. Same thing. If the FCC enforces, you're going to get a massive ticket. Massive ticket. And so much so they can put liens on your home, any real estate, any assets you have, garnishable paychecks, whatever. If you want to take that risk, go ahead. It's on you. But the fact of the matter is, folks, licensing is a privilege. Anything you have to have a license for, that means you have a privilege. You don't have the God-given right. Let's see here. Moving on down, we've got Adventure Guy 4119 says the suppressed shortwave listening in World War II as well. Buy and stash shortwave radios too. I agree. You need to have as many in the event of a massive nuclear attack or something like that, you need this anyway. You need to have ways to receive communications from the outside. Don't just rely on having one option. And if you're relying on this stupid thing, it ain't going to get you nowhere, especially in the event of an EMP. So, shortwave radios, hand crank radios, battery operated radios. I would even say if some of these electronic supplies that you put in your bunker or your go bag or whatever you want to call it, your bug out bag, make sure they're in a Faraday bag, just to have the extra protection. Let's go back to the comments here. Pat D. Bean says the EMP would put tens of thousands of volts down your antenna, so that would cancel your license. Anyway, that's a pretty fair point, for sure. Adventures in Mortality says, here's a winning strategy for surviving an all-out nuclear war. Just sit tight and wait for instructions. I feel like that could be the right option for sure. I'm all about law and order. I just am. But I think with similar views to most of the folks that are commenting here, you got to do what's right for you and your family at a certain point. You just do. Nerdelkin says, if any group will become, or if any government will be operation after nukes drop, DMV will survive, of course. But I wouldn't worry about any ham licenses. If you're freaking dead, does it really matter? Clement Galinsky 3924 said that, and I replied back, of course not, but in the event you survive. Let's say, I mean, let's be realistic about this. If the entire world, let's say North Korea fired everything they had, China fired everything they did, the United Kingdom, France, NATO, United States, Canada, if everybody fired every nuclear weapon they had, there's a good chance, we're all going to be dead. Let's just be realistic about it. You're talking probably 10,000 nukes at that point, or probably more than that. We're all dead. There's just no surviving that. However, I think that scenario is quite out of play. A one-off of a nuke coming, to one city, I think that's possible. And let's say that's complete, just example here. Let's say that was Washington, D.C., okay? Washington, D.C. gets hit, we fire one back, war's over. Well, guess what? People in the southeast and the northeast and the west coast, and they're going to survive that. And one nuclear device isn't going to destroy the world. So, Clement, yeah, I see your point, but there's a whole much bigger picture to that. Let's do another couple here. Shane says same in the UK, and I imagine most other countries, in the event of major war breaking out, amateur licenses are routinely suspended to control information of use to an enemy and free up the space for military use. The last time it was invoked here was World War II. Remember, he's in the United Kingdom. I imagine if current conflicts become that hot, then your options for comms will be severely limited anyhow. And that's the key, folks. That is certainly the key right there, is we're talking about they're not trying to cut you off the radio just to be jerks about it. That's not what they're going to be doing. What they're going to be doing is a security matter. They are trying to prevent the foreign people, the folks that come to war with us. They're trying to prevent them from listening in to stuff that's happening here in the United States. So they're preventing spy activity. That's why they want to do this. If this were to happen. However, to that point, again, life and death, pick up that mic. Get on that radio for sure. The other thing, I'll just leave it at that. Let's hit one more and then we'll call tonight here. 12 Headman Lane says the FCC allows anyone to use ham radio in an emergency, regardless if you have a license or not, as long as the transmission is used for that emergency. Also, these are rules, not laws. So, well, and to your point, 12 headmen, I think we're seeing eye to eye on this to an extent. However, the federal government has given the Federal Communications Commission authority to set these rules. And when I say the federal government, I mean Congress. So it might as well be a law. However, to your point, they're not going to throw anybody in jail for breaking FCC rules. It's not. It's not a thing. You're going to get a civil penalty for breaking FCC rules. So that's the difference. If you break a rule, you're going to get a fine. If you break a law, you're probably going to jail. So that's that. All right, folks. Well, we're going to call it. We're going to be done with it right there. I appreciate everybody, the new subscribers, the new followers, folks that have been talking in the comments. Keep the comments coming. This is a very important topic, and I'd love to continue to have this conversation. If you've got video ideas for me, please get them in the comments down below, and I'll definitely consider them, and we'll look at doing some more videos. But guys, I'll just say thank you for watching. I hope you have a great night, a great day, whichever time you watch this at. And we'll say 73. This is AA4WX, WSCB 693.